Okay, we're live. Take it away.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here. My name is Pete Isgrig. I am with Western Digital and SanDisk and SanDisk Professional, all one company. Hopefully, you are all familiar with our products and you love them and you use them. And we are happy to be here today with Adorama to bring you Dave Black, who's going to talk to us about his extensive career in winter photography, especially at the Olympics. We're really excited to hear about this and all of the sports photography that you've done and how you've done it, and to show some examples. So with that said, before I pass it over to you, just two bits of information. One, we have a raffle. I believe we have a raffle. Maybe not. I might be speaking out of turn. But anyway, I'm going to look real quick and see if we've got a raffle going on here. But for this event, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will be monitoring it, and I'll be talking with Dave throughout the event, and I'll be asking your questions throughout, and we will go from there. So without further ado, Dave, if you want to take it away.
All righty, sounds good. Thank you, Pete.
Okay, wait, we do have a raffle. So go, if you want to enter the raffle, go to the 42 Live page where this is live streaming, where you guys are watching it. Scroll to the bottom. It says enter the raffle below. You got to enter your name and email and click submit. So please do that. Enter the raffle. If you're watching this, the recording later, know that we will keep the raffle open for about 24 hours after this event. So you can there still may be time to register.
All righty.
All right. Now, Dave, you can take it away.
What's up on the, is we going to win a new pair of skis?
No, you're going to win a SanDisk portable SSD.
Oh, okay.
The little guy that you give away at all of your Ask Me Anything events on Instagram as well.
That sounds great.
Yep.
That sounds great. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, SanDisk. Thank you, Adorama, for having me. This is, I don't think I've ever given just a winter sports presentation and lecture before.
I know, yeah. Usually you have like some sort of studio going on in the background there, and you're showing us skills and whatnot.
Exactly. So this is I had to go back in my archives and pull some and put things together. So I was like still doing it at about 5:45 as you guys are out on the East Coast. But well, thanks for joining me. We are going to kind of head into and Pete, you can actually ask me questions anytime. Sometimes we save them for the end, but if you'd rather just periodically
I may do a combination of both. I know a little bit about what you're going to talk about, so some people will ask questions that are along those lines. I'll let them go, or we'll save them to the end, or if they're relevant to what you're talking about right then and there, I'll ask them as well.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Okay, well, the first thing you're probably seeing, and hopefully that's what you're seeing, it's just my website page. Now it's been updated a little bit. This one says 2020, but that was the slide that was still in my folder there for the show. And I just put it up there. It's daveblackphotography.com, just because there may come a point where you say, you know what kind of gear is he using? Or, you know, where does he get those lights or whatever it might be? And so it's good to have that up there. So this is actually my favorite slide right here, because I want to know, how did SanDisk and Adorama paint their logos on the landing area, you know, at the ski jumping? Pete, have you got any idea how that happened? But, anyway, thank you very much,
really good Photoshop work on your part.
And it's a rare thing. I'm not always so good at it, but I figured this one out and I thought I'm going to do it. Why not? You know. But thank you, SanDisk. Thanks, Adorama. It's been a long time since I've been in New York City. I need to get out there and get over to Adorama.
Please come anytime. We'll make an in-person event.
Well, you know, people say it's not about the gear, you know, but that's just people, because photographers say, but the right gear really helps. There's no doubt about that. And it's funny how that is. You know, who says it's not about the gear? Editors. Like when you have an editor giving a presentation, they'll say it's not about the gear. But every photographer I know says, oh, yeah, it is. You know, So the gear is important. So I thought I might as well say what I use these days. I am one of Nikon's ambassadors. There's like about 20 of us or something like that. And I currently use the Z9, and almost probably about half my lenses are all, Z lenses. So, but whatever flavor camera lenses you're using, Sony, Canon, Nikon, they are all extraordinary these days. And that's coming from a Nikon ambassador. So they're all really good. They're all really good. So whatever flavor you like, have at it. But I know a lot of the sports industry's gone mirrorless. I think the electronic viewfinder has a great advantage. And also 20, 25, 30 frames per second is just like a sports photographer's dream. So I'll just leave that to Adorama when you go in when you walk in the door there. All right, what else we got here? Oh, okay. Oh, there's my website address. If you follow me on Instagram, maybe that's how you found us here. It's just at Dave Black Photo. And just a reminder that we have, meaning my daughter Haley and I, we have a Q&A show the first Monday of every month. It's called Ask Me Anything, AMA Monday. And Haley and I do that. It's the first Monday. It starts at 9 o'clock Mountain Time because I live in Colorado. And if you can't make it live because you go, hey, I'm at work, what good is that? I can't attend that. Then we archive all of them. We have about 2 years of shows, and SanDisk is one of our sponsors. And typically, and I think we have, thanks to Pete and SanDisk, we will be giving away, this is our second year, I think, giving away the SanDisk SSD drives.
Yeah, so if they don't win this raffle tonight, you can follow Dave on Instagram and join his AMAs, and you get, how often do you do them? You do them like the first Monday of every month. So you have every month you have a chance to win one of those.
That's right. And you don't have to do anything except write us in a question, while the show's going on, and we go for an hour, sometimes longer. And, everybody just types their questions in. We don't actually have guest appearances by people, on the show. But if you randomly say what's called the SanDisk secret word, for example, it might be tripod. Let's just use that as an example. And you ask the question, Dave, when you're out there shooting wildlife, what kind of tripod do you use? And it's like when tripod comes up, Haley and I freak out. We ring the bell, and you win the SSD drive. So tripod will probably not be the secret word for March. I'll just give you a hint.
Dave, back in the day, were you a fan of the Pee Wee Herman show then? I'm guessing, if there's the secret word of the day, or is that just my childhood?
That may be your time. I'm in my 70s now, so mine goes all the way back to Groucho Marx.
Okay.
And his TV show in the 1960s called You Bet Your Life.
Okay.
And anytime during the interview, Groucho would be interviewing people, and the secret word might be frying pan. And during the interview, he would try and lead them along until somebody said, hey, do you like to cook? Are you in the kitchen much? Contestant would say, oh, yes, I have a whole assortment of frying pans. Boom, the bell would ring, and they'd win $100. But SanDisk wasn't around then, so in 1960. So today we give away an SSD drive. Okay. Let's keep going here. Oh, more advertising. What do you know? Who knew? But I'm going to get this in there. I have a new book out, and it's in hardcover and in PDF. And it's all about sports, and it's backstories and techniques, how I do things. So it's instructional for sure. And it is a phone book. It is big. It is a coffee table book of 255 pages, big double page spreads and so forth, all different kinds of sports, Summer Olympics, Winter Olympics, shooting on strobe, shooting high speed sync outside, all kinds of things. And anyway, you on my Instagram, if you just look in the under the IG profile, you'll see Linktree, and that should take you into my website
right to the Dave's Bookstore page. So anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get on with more stuff here. Anyway, it's selling like hotcakes. The PDF is. I'm going to tell you something. So don't buy the hardback edition. Probably the only author to say something like that. It's published one at a time, print on demand. And because it's 255 pages and it's the largest format book they make, and I'm using the highest quality paper they have, it looks stunning. I mean, it's amazing to me how good these pictures look. They really have great color and quality. But it costs about $212 because it's only printed one book at a time. That's why I put out a PDF version, which has all the same book, and that's electronic, so it's for your iPad and your computer, and I guess your phone. I guess you could see it there. So anyway, that's the difference. But believe it or not, I have sold a bunch of the hardcover issues. I don't know. These people must be retired with great big bank accounts. I don't know. Anyway, don't think I'm getting any profit for the hardcover book. I don't make a dollar, nothing. I don't make anything for it. It's the PDF version. It's $29.95, and that's what I get out of it. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Well, this seems like an obvious one, but it maybe isn't. You're going to start with one sport. If you're a sports photographer and there's probably a sport that you like, maybe you even played a sport, maybe you did baseball or you did volleyball or you ran track or something. But essentially, sports photographers tend to start with a sport that they know somehow. They like it, that they played it. That's usually where they start. I was actually a gymnast growing up, all through high school, college. And that was actually the first sport I started photographing. And when you kind of decide, now, what is that one sport I really want to do? Well, my daughter is in track and field, so I find myself photographing a lot of track and field. Or in our case tonight, maybe she's in figure skating. And so now I'm going to be the new photo person for her, and I'm going to be taking pictures of my daughter figure skating. Then the next thing I tell you is you need to know that sport. You need to get acquainted with it. You need to learn all about it. Who are the good people? Who are the top marquee athletes in it? And what are they all about? Because the more you know about your sport, and I do mean that, the more you know about your sport, the better pictures you're going to make. It seems sort of elementary, and it is, but you'd be surprised, how many people don't quite realize that. The intricacies of the routines on figure skating on the ice, knowing whether Michael Phelps breathes to his right side during the freestyle swim or his left side. Which way does he take his breath? Because then you want to be on that side of the pool where you see his face when it comes out of the water. So something very simple. And I've seen people at the Olympics. These people come in and they, the world's top film, and media gathering, and a lot of them don't shoot sports, and they get on the wrong side of the pool. And I'm the kind of guy who goes over and says, I know you're sitting over here on the side of the pool to shoot Michael Phelps today, but I just want you to know that he breathes to the other side when he does the freestyle, and he'll be doing freestyle today. You might want to come over with the other 400 of us instead of being by yourself over here. And then they make their choice. So know your sport. Gymnastics was mine. And because I was a gymnast and I was a coach for a while before I did photography, it was almost second nature for me to capture pictures of gymnastics, men, women, rhythmic. I was doing it all and was hired by the U.S. team. That's sort of like being hired by the New York Yankees. If you like baseball, that's what you want to be, photographing, the major leagues. I got hired by the U.S. team. They asked if I'd walk away from gymnastics coaching and be their photographer. Why not? I thought. And off I went, and I knew my sport. But that is a summer sport.
And I found I started, well, this is getting very interesting. And through the course of time, and don't give up on me on winter sports. I'm just setting a little foundation for you here. I started shooting track and field as well. I started working for the Olympic Committee in different magazines. And then it was like, I said, I'm going to start doing swimming. And I did boxing, and I did soccer, and I did badminton, and I did tennis, and I did all these sports. And they were all summertime sports, and started doing baseball as well, right? Why not? And I thought, I really like this. And people were hiring me, and the weeks and months and few years go by, and I'm shooting outdoors, summertime. Everything seemed to be in the summer. And then football started stretching it into the fall and into like December. And then my season of photography seemed to stop because I wasn't doing anything in January, February, March, April. Baseball would start up, May, and then into the summer sports again. And I decided that the time had come where if I'm going to make a really good living at this, I need to find, what I call the second season, because everything was ganged into the summer sports. Now you may say, I'm not going to shoot Major League Baseball. I'm more into adventure sports, and I like doing water sports and things. Great, that's great. That's great. But just know that there's still a season that tends to sort of, your calendar gets filled up with all these things you're trying to get to, even if you're doing these, right? And it's nice doing those summer sports. Let's just face it, it's very, very pleasant out there. So it's a big shift if you say, I want to be shooting year round, and I don't really care to shoot basketball indoors sport. So I want to do something along the winter sports, and everything changes very abruptly for you. All of a sudden, you're not thinking about what lens you're going to buy. You're trying to figure out how I'm going to keep my hands warm, while I'm there. And that little factoid for you would be those little packets of hand warmers. Yeah, I'll go through about 10 or 12 of those things per day at the Olympics. And I just buy a case of them, take it with me to the Olympic Games or a World Championships or a World Cup Tour or something like that, because you're outside a lot and it does get cold. And so when you've decided, boy, I need to find a second season, that's where it's kind of like a dilemma, but it turned out being the best thing that ever happened to me, because I started snooping around and I thought, well, where do I even start on this? Now I live in Colorado and I ski, and I thought, well, I could go to the U.S. ski team and see if they maybe hire me for some, ski races or something. And I thought, why not? So I walked in there. And in 1985, I talked to a young lady. Her name was Jolene Abel, and she was in charge of media and public relations at the U.S. ski team. And she said, you're the guy who shoots all the gymnastics. I go, yeah, that's me. I do a lot of it. He said, hey, they are going to have freestyle skiing in the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary. He said, how'd you like to shoot freestyle skiing for us? I said, perfect. It's a lot like gymnastics. People are flipping upside down. He says, well, they are in aerials, but there's moguls and there's actually ski ballet, believe it or not. Don't hear about that one much anymore. It kind of gave up after Calgary, I think. But the two moguls and aerials managed to stick around. This is actually a 2-page spread from my book. I thought I'd throw it in there because I devote one chapter to the winter sports and the Winter Olympics. And just so you get an idea of what you might be getting into when you purchase the PDF version of that book. Well, a lot of things are similar. It's like any other Olympics. There is a flame. There's venues all over the place, except these are predominantly outdoors. Lots of them are outdoors. You're up on the mountain, you're doing things. And I ended up doing freestyle skiing before the 88 games. I shot in 85, 86, and 87. So by the games, I was pretty well prepared. I knew a lot more about my subject, which was not only freestyle skiing, but it started branching into some other winter sports. This is if you've never seen an Olympic medal close up, this is what it looks like. They are all different. They're all handcrafted differently and so forth. They're really something to behold. I've held on to a couple of them before. They're heavy. They're gold, you know. So speaking of Adorama, this is the gear that I would usually take. This is commonly what I would take to the Winter Olympics. I did 6 of them, by the way. And you can see a lot of stuff. Probably looks familiar to you down there. There's some things that you might not be. I think I still got my cursor here. I'm going to pull that out. Hand warmer. See this? There's just a couple of hand warmers right there. And those are called crampons right there. Those have 3-inch spiked crampons. They attach to, I have pairs that attach to ski boots. And I also have pairs of crampons that attach just to regular mountaineering boots. But they are required if you're going to be on a hill shooting any ski or alpine event. It's required that you wear them, but they're great because you're like Superfly when you get on the steep part of the mountain, because you can just walk up a wall practically with these things. It's pretty awesome.
They're also required if you ever go walking on a glacier.
That's right.
That out. Yeah.
Exactly. You go to Everest, you got your big crampons on. You got and they are fun. They really are fun, unless you have, you know, baggy ski pants on, because then it's easy to catch your crampon right in one of the cuffs of the ski pants. Anyway, so you got all kinds of stuff you're taking there, including skis and poles and you know, everything to keep you warm. Pocket wizards are over here. These are super. This is a Manfrotto's magic arm, and you know, tripods and ball heads and you name it, it's there. I was on my way. This is like a couple days before I left for the 2006 Winter Games, so I have my book on Italian. There's instant Italian right there. Games were in Torino, Italy. So anyway, all that stuff is there. So there's a whole bunch of new stuff you're going to be collecting. Adorama will love you for that. But your cameras and lenses and things like that do stay the same. They do stay the same. You know, but this is a very important piece of equipment here. If your candy bar on the ski slopes is not a Toblerone, then it is not FIS sanctioned. FIS, Federation de International de Skiing. FIS, right? You got to have a Toblerone. They always give the athletes, you know, you get your gold medal, but you get the Toblerone bar, which is huge. They give them a big one. It's about 2.5 feet long. So anyway, don't forget your Toblerone. And these are the 3 things in any sports photographer's handbook. If you don't have this in your little handbook or written with a Sharpie pen on the palm of your hand or seared into your memory, these are the 3 things you want to do. You want to follow the action, right? And you want to fill the frame. In other words, I don't want a teeny tiny little skier and then a huge blue sky. And where's the skier again? He's so small. So you need to probably have a 400 or 600 and 1.4x converter, that sort of range of lenses. Things are far away at the Winter Games, it seems like, for you. So follow the action, fill the frame, and capture what's called the moment. Because almost anybody that's going to hire you to do the game, they want that key moment. In football, it's the interception. It's a key touchdown. Ooh, last night, it was that run back down to the 3-yard line in the 4th quarter there by the Chiefs. What a game. Raise your hand if you saw the game. Well, I can't see you anyway, but that's okay. I'm assuming some people are raising their hands. So capture the moment. That's there's Pete. Thank you, Pete. All right. Oh, were you a Philadelphia fan?
No.
No.
I didn't care the outcome of either of the games. I just wanted it to end with the Chiefs with the 5 and the Eagles with the 3 so that I'd win the pool, and it didn't happen.
Aha. Oh, there you go.
That's all I was rooting for.
Living large. Living large. So there they are. The moment is that key turnaround point of a game, or if an athlete falls, like in the speed skating and he falls, oh, he should have won the gold medal, but he didn't because he fell. That can be the key moment as well. It's not always about victory. Sometimes, it is about who's supposed to win, but doesn't. After all, that's why they come play the games, as they say. So being a skier, I realized, all right, I've got an advantage over a lot of other photographers because a lot of them don't ski. And I thought, okay, so this is going to work out pretty good for me, I'm thinking. And my first day on the hill, this is actually from the Calgary Olympics, but I'm just going to go back in time to my first 1985 and my first day on the hill. The first thing that the U.S. ski team sent me to was a World Cup competition in Lake Placid, New York. And I went to aerials practice because they were training that day. So were the moguls, so were ballet. But I thought, this is my primary thing because these guys are upside down all the time. These young ladies, they're always flipping around. So it's the most like gymnastics. And it was. Not only was it most like gymnastics, but I ended up knowing most of the coaches that were coaching the sport because they were all former gymnasts who had found a home teaching aerial skiing, teaching them how to do backflips with twists and things, working on trampoline and spotting rigs, spotting belts, and so forth. And so I felt right at home. And I was so at home that this guy, this is Lloyd Langlois, he's from Canada. And he was one of the superstars in 1985. And you can see what's called the kicker. That's what that's called down there. There's a big, long, sort of like ski jumping, except this, they ski down to get speed. Then they hit the kicker, which is like basically a arched ramp, almost like the half pipe, just a little hunk of half pipe. And it just sends them, 60, 80 feet in the air. Absolutely phenomenal. And it's nuts. I mean, if you get a chance to photograph this sport, it is so much fun. So much fun. And the Canadians, who were the best in the world at the time, their team was known as the Royal Canadian Air Force. And they just were better than everybody. No pun intended, head over heels over everybody. And I'm standing next to these two guys, these two coaches, and I'm watching a little bit. I'm trying to get to know my sport. So I decided I'd just watch, for about 30 minutes, just see what everyone's doing. And the one guy turns to the other and he says, I don't get it. How come they're so much better than us? And I just said, core strength. The guy goes, excuse me? I said, core strength. You're talking about the Canadians and why they're so good? It's core strength. That's what they have. You don't have. Because you is everyone else on the hill here. What a wise guy. You talk about a wise guy. They're like, who are you? And the guy turns to me and you can see the U.S. flag on his jacket. He's the U.S. coach. And I said, well, I'm your new photographer. And you are, his name was Park Smalley. And he and his brother, Park and John Smalley, if you've ever watched a Warren Miller film with like crazy freestyle skiers back in the 1960s and 70s, that was John and Park Smalley. And they, were wild guys on the slope. It's called hot dog skiing back then. And they said, how do you know that? I said, because that guy up there is doing a double twisting, double back somersault up in the air, and then he's going to land on his skis. I said, but I could do that in high school. And the only way to do it, my coach, I said, I had to have superior core strength in order to do it. These guys have skis, which makes it even harder. So I said, core strength. And man, we became friends instantly. It was great. I became embedded in the sport later that day when we went to the restaurant and I performed a backflip with my ski boots on in the restaurant. I was golden with these guys. And I basically just toured around with them quite a bit over the years. This is Lloyd again. Lloyd was so good, he could do a triple twisting triple back, and he could do the first 2 twists in the first 2 flips, and then he would it's called breakout. He would break out and like stretch out and then bring it in for 1 more twist on the last flip. The guy could style it out. He was unbelievable. Once you get to know your sport, once you get to be accustomed to being on the competition floor, or in this case, the slope or the freestyle skiing aerials, it's called the knoll. On the knoll, which is where the kicker is. That's where the coaches hang out. That's where, all the action is kind of happening up in the air. Once you get into that, knowing the sport, and you get friendly with everybody, then you sometimes, and what happened to me was I became embedded in the sport, almost like a confidant of the sport. And I said, could I lay down underneath the kicker, looking straight up into the, blue sky of Canada? And they said, absolutely. You're our guy. Get in there. And with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, it was like shooting ducks in a barrel. I mean, it was so easy for me. They would take off, and I'd take 3-4 frames, click, 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 like that, wait for the next flip, click, 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 and a couple more, because I knew when they'd be looking at the ground, if you're flipping and twisting, you look down to the ground below you. It's called spotting. They're going to spot the ground. That tells them where they are in their rotation and so forth. That was second nature to me because I would do that on trampoline. Same thing. Same thing. Weather conditions have a lot to do with these winter sports. And I thought, this is one of my, I have a couple of them I'll throw in here. And this is one of my favorites. This is, again, laying on my back. Now, you could get almost the same picture. I can use a 70 to 200 laying on the knoll. You need about a 400 to do it from down in the landing area. But you can actually get the same kinds of pictures where they're directly upside down, because at some point they're upside down facing towards you, even though you're about another 70 feet out in front of the kicker. But when the snow comes in, I mean, this was just warm up. This was just not a competition. Competition started in about 45 minutes, and the snow came in. It was an absolute blizzard. And I thought, this is going to make some really cool pictures. And it did. This picture is on film from 1986. It has sold over and over and over again. In all my other times photographing, I never had one look like this. It's just one of those weird things, as they say. But when you get a really interesting picture, they can sell for a while. There's the landscape. You want to show relative, the athlete relative to how high is he? Well, he's the same height as Lloyd Langlois. This guy's from Switzerland. Don't remember his name. I think we're in Lake Louise. Lake Louise? No, we're in Europe. We're definitely in Europe. Anyway, don't remember where, but hey, there we are. And this guy's up, and I thought, why not? I love the jagged peaks back there. They had fresh snow that night and just looked outstanding. So you can show how high are they? Well, we can show Lloyd. Well, that really looks high up there, but it's also just this sort of nothing blue sky. But I like that sometimes for aerials. It does look cool. But so does that. And so does that. So there's a variety of things. You want to get around, move around. You want to try and get there a day early if you can, so that you can shoot the practice session. People don't hassle you so much. You could probably stand on the knoll and maybe even lay down on the knoll or something if you wanted to. Now, at 9 o'clock in the morning, when this particular event started, the moon was setting. And I thought, why not? Not very good form here. His skis are kind of wild. His arms are wild and everything else. But I thought it looked like he was jumping over the moon. I thought it looked pretty cool and managed to do that. It has never been published. And I was surprised. I thought for sure somebody would use it somewhere down the line. It is not an American. So Americans want they're American athletes. So, but working for the ski team, they're not that concerned about the other folks. Anyway, there are things going on, and I just happened to notice the moon's out. So I positioned myself on the opposite side of the knoll, got down in a place where I could see the moon, and I thought, because I knew the sport, I could kind of predict where he'd be in midair, and it might actually work out. And it did. It was kind of fun. This guy was from China, and like 1990 maybe, and China was just beginning to field gymnasts in this sport, in the aerials freestyle. And so he was not ranked very high. In fact, he was like in last 2 or 3 slots when the whole World Cup was over. But he had the best darn suit on the whole hill, and that alone made me want to photograph the guy. And there's a contrail, it looks like, or something going on back there. Don't remember, it was just a cloud stream. I think it might have been a contrail that had sort of separated. It's on film, so it's 1990. And then as soon as he took off the kicker, I took like 3-4 frames, and all the snow, which was a little bit thick that day, it was a little heavier with moisture, stuck to the skis. And as soon as he took off and it started rotating, all the snow just flew off, which made kind of this neat X design up in the sky. So as a photographer, you're always looking for different and unique kind of pictures to take, because at 20, 25, and 30 frames per second, which is what the digital age, and certainly the mirrorless cameras, Sony, Canon, Nikon, they're all shooting lots of frames per second. Everyone can kind of get a lot of the same looking pictures. So you want to have your pictures be different and unique and separate themselves from the rest of the crowd, so to speak. And so look for special things. Look for special ways to shoot. Moguls is a whole different thing. Now, I felt very at home at freestyle aerials, and it was like, well, I can ski, and I can ski down moguls, but I'm not real good at it. But I could get down, and I could carry my backpack, and I could, have 40 pounds on my back and still get down the mogul field. But the first time I shot moguls, this is what it looked like. It was just like hot dog skiing, and I thought it was a national championship at Squaw Valley. And I thought, you gotta be kidding me. This guy comes down, contestant number 103, from Hawaii. Look at this. This guy's just too funny. Anyway, he came down, did like a helicopter thing or whatever it was. But this sport has changed quite a bit as well. So this is what it used to look like years and years ago. It was fun, and you could be kind of a, hey, dude, do it again, And then the weather moved in, and they started getting higher, faster, doing more skills, with the skis and so forth. But still, it was what I call an upright sport. They were just upright in the air. Moguls got bigger. This is on a very windy day in Salt Lake City at the Moguls ladies freestyle mogul finals. It was a tremendous wind gusts would just race up the mogul course, and it would just blow snow everywhere. It was just beautiful to watch. I have to apologize for not knowing the names of all the athletes here. I just know that she won a bronze medal for the U.S. I do remember that. That was kind of interesting. But there's just different angles. Look around. The likelihood is you will have to ski. You will have to ski. So keep that in mind. You will have to. Let me rephrase that. You actually don't have to, but you find it better if you can ski. If you don't ski, you end up walking a lot with your equipment in the snow, up the hill. Lots of times for some of the media that don't even know how to get on a chairlift, you can go up in a media shuttle, snowcat. If you're on a snowcat, leave very early in the morning and grab the first snowcat, because snowcats are very slow. They're just creeping up the hill, so you want to get there early and hitch a ride on one of those. Long lenses, it's like with a 600 on the mogul course. Still an upright sport though, right? It's only been recently, and this is 2002, back in Salt Lake, that it changed. And this one guy changed the sport. This is Big Air Johnny Mosley. And Big Air Johnny Mosley was a gold medalist in the 1998 Winter Olympics in Japan. And he introduced, and it's still an upright sport, and he introduced almost turning upside down, but it was against the rules to turn completely upside down. Now they turn upside down all the time. In fact, if you're not turning upside down, you don't even get into the World Cup. But he was sort of the first pioneer to kind of move that direction. And this is sort of an unusual angle, but it was trying to show the relationship of his head and his ski boots. His ski boots were not allowed to go over his head height, which he did not. I think this particular skill, he's rotating actually. He's like doing like almost like an axle, except he's on his side. I think Johnny called it the dinner roll. Ha, ha. Such a dude, as they say. Well, that opened up a lot of doors. I mean, I only had done about 2 or 3 World Cups in freestyle. And they said, hey, you want to try shoot ski jumping? Sure. Never seen it up close. Oh, they're having the national championships over in Steamboat. We'd like you to cover those. Great, because I can drive to Steamboat in about 5 hours. No problem. So went over there. This picture is actually from the Olympics. It looks familiar to you. Before SanDisk and Adorama put their logos on the slope there, the Olympic rings were there. Pete, were you out there collecting the pine boughs the night before and then put the SanDisk logo there?
Yeah, that was all me.
I knew it. You are such a dude. Okay. Ski jumping, same things apply. You want to find different ways to photograph. You shoot from the front, you shoot from the side, you shoot from the back, you shoot, here I filled the frame, but it's mostly filled with the pine boughs and the athlete. And you might think about how I just shot all the different freestyle aerials and it trying to fill the frame. Follow the action, fill the frame, capture a moment. This is the moment. It was the key moment because win or lose in 2002, Johnny Mosley was a legend and was breaking new ground in this sport. He was sort of the Michael Jordan of moguls, I guess you'd say. And although Michael Jordan didn't change the sport, the basket is still the same height. The ball is still the same size. Tiger Woods changed the sport of golf. They started lengthening all the golf courses. So I thought this guy has number one. This is actually the 90-foot hill. There's a 120-meter hill and a 90-meter hill. And I wanted it head on. And I like this is the recent style, the V-shaped style with the skis. These guys can just fly through the air. They do about 75, 80 miles in the air, 80 miles per hour as they're flying. And there's 2 things I just want you to know. There's 2 things you can't get at the Olympics. One of them is food as a photographer. It's hard to get food because you have to be to the events very early. Then you have to go to, the award ceremony. Then you have to go to the press conference after each particular event. And so you put it in your backpack and you're eating granola bars and stuffing bread into your mouth and things like that. That's no joke. The 2 things you can't get. One of them is food. And unfortunately, the other one, it's very difficult to take all your equipment into the porta potties that are along the mountainside and in the press area and that sort of thing. Anyway, I tend to carry food around with me to bribe different people. It's very useful at World Championships, World Cup, and the Olympics. And for a brand new bag of Chips Ahoy cookies, I got my way onto a Canadian television platform because those guys hadn't eaten all day. And you guys look hungry. I've got some cookies here. Could I come up and give them to you? Yeah. Get up here. Hey, climb up the ladder, get up on the TV stand. No one else is there. This is going to be a picture no one else has. That's what you're always striving for as a sports photographer, whether it's football, baseball, or ski jumping. You're looking for something unique and unusual. And so up I got, and I said, how about I just sit down in front? I promise not to wiggle or move so the camera won't change. I know how that works. They said, can we keep the bag of cookies? Whole bag is yours if I can sit there. Just the first round. That's all I need. Then I'll leave you for the final round. Bingo. Front row seat, way up in the air. Second round, I came down and thought, all right, now I'm going to use a long lens and get something different because now I get sort of the personal thing. So I have everybody from the early qualifying round coming right over the Olympic rings, every single competitor. Final round, I decided to go here. Now I have the sort of up close shot, so to speak. Calgary had particular problems. They didn't have any snow. They were in a drought during the 1988 Olympics, so ski jumping was down in town just outside of Calgary city limits. And there was no snow on the hillside that normally you would see in the background. And so I worked my way all the way up to the top so I could look down and found a position. And just as they went off the lip, they come down the run and then they take off into the air. And they would just basically fly. And it looks like they're just going to land on top of all the fans for ski jumping. And it was so impressive. And back in the press room that night, went into the press room. Of course, this is on film. You hand your film off at every event to couriers. They take it into the Kodak Film Center. And then the film is now taken over to, I was working, with Newsweek at almost all my Olympics that I covered, summer and winter. And now I've got all my film, I've got it back and I've got it spread out on the table while I'm waiting for some of the other things like ice hockey or whatever film to get ready. So I would just spread it out on a light table there. And all these photographers come and go, with their cigarettes, from France. How did you get that picture? Where was the position for that? It's illegal. It's illegal photo position. I said, no. I said, I suppose if you just brought up something to eat for maybe some of the film crews up there, you might actually find the same position and more. And they did. And so the next couple of days, everybody had pictures like this. I probably but that's the kind of guy I am. I like people to get good pictures. And I'm not threatened by these guys, and gals. I know I can take a good picture, and I'm always up for the challenge to get mine published. So anyway, find a different view. 1994, this is in Norway, another different view. Not quite over the crowd. And this is Norway's event, by the way. This is in speed skating. These are their two biggies. And so we had a full house there. Everybody's wearing red down there for go Norway, right? And found a place just kind of adjacent, but off to the side. I asked a guy if I could be there, and he said, shook his head, no. And I said, I held up like my fingers, like, how about 3 inches over this way? And he said, okay. And I kind of moved over a little. I said, 3 more. Moved through. I did that about 8 or 10 times and got just far enough over to where now when they take off, if I shot really quick, I'd get both the rings, the flame, which are the two main objects of the icons of the Olympic Games, and an athlete. Now, not all of them flew exactly where I wanted them, but several of them. They had just taken off at this point and their skis had gone apart. The farther down they go, the skis actually get wider. I would have loved it if they'd had their skis wider at this point, but there it is. Shooting from the side. How many of you do pan photography? Pan action. Raise your hand if you do pan action, right? Slow shutter speed. You want the background to be blurred, and then you want your subject to be sharp. And a lot of people are like, boy, that's hard to do. And it is. The concept is very easy to understand, but it is sort of hard to do. And this particular area worked great because in Norway, there were trees on the north side of what's called the in-run or the ramp that they come down, the little house way up there. They kind of go down the ramp and then fly off there. I heard it described one time. In fact, it was at those national championships in Steamboat. And I was way up, almost looking at the same picture, even though this is 1998. Can't remember. Anyway, but the announcer said, if you've never experienced ski jumping, on your drive back home to Denver tonight, once you get up to 80 miles an hour on I-70, just open the car door and step out. And that gives you the same feeling as ski jumping. I thought, whoa.
So, Dave, we've got
Yes,
some
sir.
questions here. Assuming you know the information from these photos, people are asking for you to give some of the camera settings you use to take these, whether it was, aperture or whatever else is shutter speeds, etc.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second. Don't anyone leave. I don't know. Can you see me on screen? No, you guys just see the.
Yeah, you appear in a little box on the side.
Okay. See that? That's
Yep.
my new book. That's my new book. And I'm going to go to every picture in here. Almost every picture has the camera information and equipment used. This is out of chapter 5 called The Art of Sport. And the title of this picture is Airborne. It's from the 1994 Winter Olympics in Norway. It was taken with a Nikon F4 camera, Kodak slide transparency film, 1/30th of a second at f/22. I used a 600 millimeter f4 lens. So this is a 1/30th of a second. And you're probably thinking, on film, I don't have the advantage that I do today with digital. I can't see the picture right away and decide, have I almost got this or not? This is pan action photography 101 right here. Every sport, every action, in the sport, they all tend to have their own shutter speed. I've kept kind of a little bit of a logbook of that over the years. Now, these guys are doing about 70 miles an hour right as they come off the lip, and that's where the trees were in the background, and they're very close. The trees are very close. And so at a 1/30th of a second, it looks like this guy's going 200 miles an hour. I mean, Newsweek flipped out. They just were like, oh, yeah, oh man, look at that. And I started out, because I had film and I couldn't see it, there's about 35 competitors and 40 competitors. And I started out around a 1/10 of a second. And every 10 competitors, I went a little bit faster, because the last people to jump are going to be the best ones. They're the top 5 or 6. They're the ones that are going to be on the podium and get the medals. So I sacrificed, some of the earlier people. A 1/10 of a second. I mean, the first few pictures I got back on the light table in the Kodak Center, there wasn't even a skier in the picture. And then all of a sudden, whoa, I went 5. Another, they're the back end of the skis. Well, there's the guy's head. As I got accustomed to it, as I began to know my subject, I got better and better as I went along. I thought, well, I'm at a 1/10 of a second, and it's pretty blurry, because I'm actually hand holding the 600, because your monopod, sinks in the snow. So, and you can't use a tripod at the Olympics. Monopod sinks. So I just pick it up as they came down and then shoot and then put the camera back down. And I got up, I went 1/10 of a second, and 20th of a second, 30th of it. And as I got to the 30th of a second, I was now in the top 15 or whatever, top 20. Now I started actually getting all in the frame, and this is full frame. There's no margin of error on this. This is actually full frame. It's not cropped in, just so you know. And now I'm at a 30th of a second, and the pan looks good, but the guy's not fitting in the frame. You know, I'm cutting the backs of the skis off and things like that. So I had about 15 more competitors to practice before the top 10. And once I got to the top 10, every one of them was just nailed, just like this. They all looked almost identical, except different color uniforms, different color ski suits. So I had all the gold medalists, or the gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal. And so that's how that works. Does that help on panning? If those trees had been a long distance away, the motion in them would not be as effective. It wouldn't look this fast. It's because these trees are right next to the ski jump. I mean, right next to it where they take off. It's only maybe 200 feet to the forest. And it just was awesome. So if you're shooting bicycle racing, like a criterium race downtown, there's people and barricades and storefronts, you know, and stuff all around. That makes great pan action photography. And you can do it at almost, those guys are hauling, you know, and if they go by, you know, you can shoot at like a 30th, 40th, and 15th. You could play around as they do the laps, do the criterium laps. And today, assuming you're using a digital or mirrorless camera, you can see the picture and you can like coach yourself as you go along. Wow, I can go slower than that. Let's see what it looks like if I go down to my favorite pan action speed is actually 1/13 of a second. It works great for some sports. Now it's too slow for others. So just keep that in mind. Keep a little, you know, you get all the camera data. You know, you could just make a little book. Anyway, hopefully that helps. Let's see what else I got here. You know. Okay. Every Olympic sport, each Olympics has marquee sports. They're sort of the one that TV wants, fans want. They don't know anything much about it. And the downhill and alpine skiing is really the jewel of the Winter Olympics, along with figure skating. And in particular, the ladies and pairs tend to pull in a good crowd. But it's women's figure skating actually is the highest coverage, the highest, not only TV, but streaming, live streaming, and typically pre-Olympic articles that happen predicting who's going to win and so forth. Ladies figure skating, that's what they want. And so we're at like the Alpine races. There's the downhill and there's the Super G. Those are they're basically on almost the same course. It's difficult. You want to be shooting as straight on as possible, which is difficult because you can't be totally straight on, because if they get out of control, then you know you're in their way. In the old days, they would let us ski on the course. And since 1998, they started clearing the downhill and Super G courses, wiping it clean of everybody except television and a few of the midpoint. They would call them coaches at the halfway point, because they'll radio down as well and say things are going on the hill and what the athlete's time was and that sort of stuff at the halfway point. You're at fast shutter speeds with this guy. It is just like the I'll go back to the freestyle skiing. I mean, you're at like 1/2000th of a second for aerials, and actually for moguls as well, because you want all the ice crystals and ice, you know, frozen in the air. 1/1000th of a second isn't going to do it. With digital cameras, you're gonna have to be at 1/2000th of a second and more if you can do it. 1/3500th of a second, 1/4000th of a second. You can't believe what somebody busting through the snow looks like when you go up to that fast a shutter speed. it looks like you brought a bunch of strobe gear out there and like froze all the, you know, ice crystals. It's great. So here, you know, on film, that was a different story. On film, 1/1000th of a second really would stop just about everything. But when the camera started producing 1/2000th of a second, like the F4 and so forth film camera, that was all about it. I went right up to 2,000th of a second if I could do it. Things just look better, sharper. Background is everything. Background is everything in sports. So you want it either diffused or you want it clean of anything. You don't want signs back there. Fans, I like having fans back there, but at the top of the downhill course, there are not too many fans up there. They have to walk up the course, and it's like nobody's going to walk up that far. They're usually from maybe the midway point down, but they're on the outside of the fences and so forth. And you don't like the fences there and all that kind of stuff. So I'm always looking to get, you know, a place on the fall line of the mountain where they're going to get a lot of air. In this case, this guy was, see who he is. As I said, every picture has a, bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Here we are, Winter Games. Winter Games. Come on. 1/1000th of a second. ASA 100 and a 600 millimeter f4. It's at 1/1000th of a second at f5.6. And this was actually the gold medalist of the combined downhill. And they do the downhill and they do slalom. So it's a technical event and then, you know, the big fast event. They get up to 90 miles an hour. It is incredible. It is incredible to photograph and watch. But that's some of the stats on that. Handheld, because like I said, your monopod just sinks. Usually you're standing on the ski slope, you've got your crampons on, and you have the 600, 400, or whatever. Because you're on an angle, one of your legs is uphill, so it's higher than the other. It's like stepping up 3 steps with one leg. So you just balance the 600 there. And you go, well, how do you see them if they're going to jump? How do you see them when they're jumping? And it's like a blind jump. And it's harder today. It used to be a lot easier because you could hear the audience start cheering. And you could actually count how many seconds from the time you heard the cheering to the time the guy would fly past you. And it was usually about 3 seconds. Now you still can kind of hear some things because there's coaches yelling, and there are some people up there. They're on the outside, so it's nice if they're higher than you on the fall line to where you can hear them, but still hear them cheering, so you can time it out as to when they're going to appear. So typically you would just 1, 2, pick up the lens, 3, take 3 shots as they go by, and you'd be, in this case, manual focusing. Autofocus today does pick them up. You would probably want to use what's a good thing? What are they like called different things in all the different cameras? But you know, subject detection, subject recognition, whatever your flavor of camera calls it, and a group of some type, so that you have some margin of error to where it would pick up their arm, leg, or their chest, or whatever it might be. But that's pretty typical for today. All right, let's go on. Different position on the hill, and there was this great fog that was kind of like hanging over the mountains atop Mount Nikiska. And yeah, guys have great suits. I got a little more around to the front. And again, I don't have the camera data in my mind on this one, but I'll almost guarantee that it's, you know, 1,000th of a second. And a sunny day, so it's like same stats, different race, different location. So I got a little more head on. The more head on you are, the better off you are. But it especially manual focus, it's really difficult. I wished I'd had autofocus way back then. Would have been pretty sweet. Some courses don't offer a lot of air, not really huge air. This is like the highest point. but they would travel so far, but there was just no photo position that you could get to and be in to be allowed on the course where you got around to the front. You make do, shoot from the side, make them look racy, you know. And this guy might have the longest poles I've ever seen. I'm not sure. Anyway, looking for the background, pine trees, dark background. Your athlete is backlit, but the snow is like a big giant fill car of light. It's just like having a white card under a person for a portrait, and the sun bounces off the white. Same thing here. It's bouncing off the white snow, fills him in, and that gives you an edge light because the sun is actually behind him above the trees and so forth. But the black pine trees, I really always like that look. It always looks cool. And the Swiss had gold suits that year. Why not? You know, talk about braggadocious. You know, we have gold suits. We are going to win the gold, and they did. They did. It was a big year for Switzerland that year. Just always you know, looking for. This is actually autofocus. 2002. This is the World Cup before the 2002 Winter Games, and I was amazed. I didn't think the autofocus would actually pick them up, but if you had just a glimpse of them before they got air, it would pick it up. And today it's even better than ever. So even if it's a blind turn or a blind jump, the AF on these cameras it's going to just nail them. Going to nail them. It's a really odd when you get not only snow falling but wind, and just it was a very kind of damp day. There was almost like fog there too. It was just the most bizarre weather. That can be very, very difficult photographing through. Even autofocus would be hard to pick up. Today's autofocus, that'll cut right through that. That'll cut right through it. But some years back, not quite so much. This is actually manual focus. It's just a World Cup race. AJ Kitt was a big competitor for the U.S. back then. Loved the suit. Pretty crazy stuff. All right. The pan. Let's go back here. Pan action's not going to do much for you here. The background is just too dark. It's black. There's nothing to gauge in the pan shutter, in the slow shutter speed, that anything's moving back there because it is so dark. And so when you get conditions like this, where you had fresh snow the night before, there must have been a foot of snow on the trees. And the tree. So I went to a narrow chute area where they actually got some air. The slope is actually falling away, and the Canadian was very stylish that year. But I'm way down. I'm at that sort of 13th, 20th of a second, something like that. And there's a little bit of motion in the skier, but it was still worth it because his skis remained sharp and his face remained pretty sharp. But he was, you know, kind of moving his leg. He was sort of, poles were going everywhere, that kind of thing. So they've got a little motion in there, but something in the pan in your subject needs to be sharp to kind of hold your interest. This one's, I think, borderline. I think there's just enough to be sharp. It was published. There's just enough to be sharp to hold our interest. If I was at a 20th, I probably should have gone to like 125th, not 125th, but just 1/25th of a second. Might have held the stripes and the skis just a little bit sharper there. It's nice when you get nice sunshine. Calgary had beautiful weather. It was like 40 degrees, and they were having trouble holding the snow. But a photographer, it was lovely. You know, it was absolutely lovely. How are we doing on time here, Pete?
We've got maybe another 10 or 15 minutes or so if you want to go over, and some time for some questions.
Wait
we do
a
have
minute.
some questions that sort of relate to this that I think would be relevant right now. Andrew wants to know, how do low temperatures affect the camera and lenses? Do you have any issues with that?
Sure. Sure. Pete, let me ask you something. I have an email that said 2 hours. Was
I
I
don't want to take, yes.
and I said 20, let's try 20 minutes
Yep, so that, yeah, if you
okay.
want to go for another 10, 20 minutes or take what time you need. I just
Okay.
didn't want to go too
Okay.
far over.
Just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure I was still on track here. The biggest problem with cold weather, it's the same thing for yourself. You want to keep warm. There's all kinds of things out there. There's electric heaters with batteries and things that you can wrap cameras in and lenses in and so forth. It's more gear to carry, and you're usually carrying a pretty heavy backpack as it is, and you're not going to roll it along through the snow, believe me. So the hand packets, or sometimes you can get like the larger chemical packets. They're they look like a giant tea bag of about 5 inches by 4 inches, or they're small to slip into your gloves. I always get a lot of those, take handfuls with them when I go up on the slope. I got them in my pockets, I got them in my gloves, and I put them in my backpack to just keep it. And you always close the backpack. You don't want to open it up and have some guy with a shovel go zooming by you and like spray all this snow in there. So be aware of when you open your pack, don't turn it open. Don't have the open end towards the course, have it away from the course. And typically a backpack that opens at the top and doesn't like unzip along the sides. Because once you get your backpack full of snow, you're ruined, it seems like. So that's how I kind of keep things warm. I have, in particularly cold weather, Norway, Lake Placid, Lake Louise gets very cold. These places, I'll actually just have like the large hand warmer and just have it on the outside of my glove. So when I'm holding onto the camera, it's keeping the camera warm. The trouble with lenses is when you go from extremely cold and then you go into the press room and they fog up. And then you have to go to figure skating later on in the next hour or two, and your lens is all fogged up. Keep it in your backpack. Take the cards out. Put them in, like a card wallet or something, so that they're kind of cold, but they kind of come up to room temperature slowly, so that you don't get condensation. Okay, here comes the pitch for SanDisk. Dave, why do you use SanDisk? There's a lot of card companies out there. Why do you use SanDisk? I have never, ever had a SanDisk card fail. No matter where I've been, no matter what Olympics. When I started using digital, I was always using SanDisk, and I never had one fail, and just never had one fail on me. And I would be in awful weather. I've dropped them in the snow. I don't recommend it, but I have.
Love it.
And, that is the biggest thing for me. Yes, right, superior write speed, all these kinds of things. Yes, I want all that, but I can't have the card go down. And I have a 24-year relationship, meaning I've used SanDisk for 24 years. Back when they had like 12 megabytes,
Right, and that card was what, $500?
Yeah. Amazing to think about. And just never had one go down. So that's the reason I use those. But you want to try and let your equipment, keep it in the backpack, let it come up to, you could like open just a little bit of it and let a little bit of warm air in the press room start to creep in there and bring it up slowly. And it's the same thing if you're going from a winter weather into a swimming pool to photograph swimmers or something. Humidity, it's just going to fog your lenses. Terrible. After that, heat. I know everybody seems to have their own method, but I sort of have the method. I just kind of leave it, on a, perched on a tripod near the heater, like a couple feet from the heater in the hotel room, so that's the warmest area and let it just stay there overnight, so that those lenses, everything get condensation out. But I don't get condensation in there anymore. I mean, that's one of the tricks you kind of try and learn. Lots of guys bring in garbage, like big garbage bags. put a big garbage bag around their 600, string it closed, and put it over their shoulder and bring that into the press room. That's another way to keep it more at a slow rising of the warm temperature. You can do that as well. I can't ski with a camera, a big lens over my shoulder. There's guys that work for Zuma in Europe, and they just ski down hand holding. They're like 600 and 800s, you know, like holding the big foot on it. They don't even use a monopod. They just ski down with that thing like out there like it was a ski pole. They're nuts. Anyway, I'm not that good. Not that good. All right, we're going to move on a little quicker here, but you got the general idea of what's going on.
Yep.
Is there another question?
Sort of, and you can
Yeah,
probably address it as you talk about shot for shot. People want to know sort of what is your experience and what is the advantages of autofocus and manual focus for shots like these, and what works best, and what do you recommend?
Well, I don't think anything compares to the autofocus that's on the cameras today. And I would say especially the mirrorless. I mean, I think the last generation, and I don't know if they're the last generation, but you know, like a D5 or a D6, you know, the autofocus is definitely, you know, going to operate in cold weather. I don't find it slowing down. So shooting manual focus is difficult. You're going to have better chances with the autofocus. Position yourself where if you can see the athlete coming towards you for a little bit of time, they're maybe too small. Remember, you want to fill the frame. Just back button autofocus, lock it in, have the 3D tracking. I use the 3D tracking for some things as well. If I can see the athlete coming, then 3D tracking works pretty good. 3D tracking I don't use if something's on what was called a blind jump or a blind turn. There I'd rather have like a cluster and a because they're going to be close enough. They're going to be filling the frame already, and so I want to have a subject recognition, subject detection mode for that. And even that is just personal preference. Just get out there during practice sessions and just get used to it, practice, try different things, especially if it's a very new sport to you. Boy, if you can get in a couple days early and get up at any sport and, practice just so you can determine which autofocus mode and settings work best for you. I can do a lot of things that you might not be able to do because I have so much experience keeping the athlete centered. In other words, I don't have athletes wavering, off of, out of the frame very, very often. And so any of the AF modes will pretty much work for me, but that may not be for your case. The more you know about your subject, the likelihood is the better you are following them. If you know this one running back, when he runs out to the right side, always does this really kind of a juke move, heads back, and then does like a turn roll kind of off of a defender, then you might be able to predict that he's going to do these things. If I've never seen him, then I'm probably going to use a detection mode then. Does that help? Hopefully.
Yep.
All right, let's get out of skiing. Let's go into something else here. I'm going to hold it on this one just for a second. I'm on an inside turn. It's a very rare thing. Very rare thing. I rode up on the lift with the gate official for this turn. It was just random. I didn't know I was going to be there. We talked all the way up. He was from France or Germany, wherever he was from. I think he was French. And I asked him where he was going to be. And he told me, just come down with me. All right. I've got sandwiches and cheese and something to drink. And we were on an inside turn. That's the easiest place to shoot skiing because you can track them all the way right around you and take, you can take 20 shots. They're only there for like a second or two. So all the way around. Really fun. And look at, this is autofocus. It's like right on her eye. Anyway, that's unusual to get there. A friendly personality on the mountain. How do you like America? I love coming here. This is wonderful. I love coming to Germany. Where have you been? Make conversation on the lift chair going up. You'll never regret it. Carry a big sandwich. All right, we've seen enough skiing. Snowboarding. This is the downhill and snowboarding. These guys, where do they go? They get up to a lot. Yeah. Let's find out what his stats are. Back to the book. We'll hold it up. There's the book. Dun, da, da, da. Same guy. All right. ASA 100. What shutter speed do you think it was? What lens do you think I used? ASA 100 slide transparency film, 1/1000th of a second, f/5.6, a Nikon 600 millimeter f4 lens with a 1.4 teleconverter. That makes it an 840 millimeters. And he's just coming over, just breaking the fall. He's just coming over the rise. That was great position that day for that. This guy had the look. Look, he looks like RoboCop. Remember the RoboCop movies? Look at that mouth. It's got the RoboCop thing going on. And those goggles, outstanding. Really had a fun national championship, whatever it was, World Cup. Anyway, same idea. All applies. Look for the fall line. Nice clean background. Don't have the gate in the background. It's nice. I think it's nice sometimes when it's completely clean like this. And just what I didn't know I was going to get was this like flex in the board. But I saw it on TV in super slow motion, and the board is like bending and flexing everywhere. I thought, God, really? Wow. And it does. Look at that thing being bent. It's normally just perfectly straight. You can go buy it in the store, carry it with you. But look at that thing. So it really showed a lot of the torque that was going on and how fast these guys were going. Half pipe. Haven't done that much of it, but enough to know what to do. And typically I'll use a flash, but I'll ask if I can. I don't want to surprise anybody. I'll go, can we use a flash on the camera or hold it off camera? I'm going to have an assistant hold it back here and kind of light him up a little. You can even see it in his goggles here. Just a lot of the Alpine and outdoor events are on the north face of a mountain because the snow stays there longer. And a lot of the races have the sun behind the athlete like this. You can see it on his hood and his glove up there. You can see that the sun is like back where he came from out of the start gate on the half pipe. And I used a flash to fill him in. Just a speed light. I think everybody owns a speed light. It's a great place to use it. Just ask ask one of the officials, like a judge or something like that. Ask one of the judges. Does it help you get a picture? Because they want good pictures. The judges do. The event director might say no, but I always go to the judges. I said, is it okay if we use flash here? Oh, yeah, they do it in Europe all the time. Okay, great, thanks. This guy did not make the podium, but he was sure high. And I just love this, the starburst of the sun back there. And I'm at f/16. I thought, okay, see the flash in his goggle? That is me. Kind of annoying in the picture, but there it is. But it makes a huge difference. He'd be very dark at this point. Very dark. Okay, wait. See the guy down in the lower left-hand corner? He's got a camera. When he wasn't smoking on his cigarette, he would go, "You cannot be there. You can't use that." I said, I asked him, and I did. I actually asked the event director on this one. I was working for the Olympic Committee. They said, "Yep, not a problem." And US Ski, not a problem. I threw the big heavy cards down. See the credential? US Ski Team, Olympic Committee, right there. That gets you some walking. But I love the starburst. It was a lot of fun. Wide angle, starburst, kind of balanced out with the mountain there. This way, the background looks okay. And I'm on the side that doesn't have all the people like hanging over there or signs or anything. In fact, it was off limits to everybody. TV wanted the crowd over here. So it, had some people along there that looked like people were actually attending. This is Kelly. Kelly. What is her name? Kelly. I called her in the book the First Lady. Kelly Clark. This is Kelly Clark. And this also, see the flash? Bingo, right there. Same event as the last one was. And remember how the guy was sitting down over in the lower left-hand corner? I was like up on my knees more. And I would stretch my arm out, which puts me, I'm 6'2". When I stretch my arm out, that's 3 feet, almost 3 feet closer to the athlete without changing my position. So I actually held the flash off camera to try and get it away from being like this burst of light, dead center there, like a pinhole. So I would hold the flash off camera and I would extend my arm right towards her as she came by and got some air. And wide angle lens, let's see here, a 24-70, high speed sync. Nikon speed lights years and years ago actually would do high speed sync, and you could get it up to 500 and 1,000th of a second. Couldn't go any faster than that, but this was 1,000th of a second and flash. Get her as she went by. That holding the arm out, autofocus and hold the arm out, to stretch your arm out there. That is a very valuable concept, because lots of times you are kind of close and you want to get a wide angle shot, but I want her to fill the frame. This is not cropped. This is all full frame. And just by doing that, it made all the difference in the world. Same thing. Just stuck my arm out there. 3 feet closer. My arm now is almost hanging over the lip. So when they jump and go past me, they're only another 4, 5, 6, 7 feet away. This was like a training place. This was a setup. I want to just talk for a second here about advertising, commercial work. Pays a lot more than editorial work. But these guys would come off, they had their own homemade thing out on the western slope of Colorado. They had their own homemade jump, and they would just, they'd just go airborne and go, with this mountains in the background. And I thought, wow, let's do it. So I actually brought some lighting along for this one. We filled them in a little bit. Kind of fun. Bobsled, slow shutter speeds. Up close, wide angle. That's a difficult one to stop. This is like 60th of a second. 1/25th of a second or 60th of a second. They are just flying by you so fast. And panning is very difficult with a wide angle lens, because when you're really close to something, just think of it. If you're standing on a busy street corner, when a car comes by you, that thing looks like it's going 80 miles an hour, when in fact it's really only going about 30 miles an hour. The farther away something is, the longer the lens, the smoother it is to pan with. But when you're short like this, with a short lens, you miss a lot. But when you get one, like it's sharp on his goggles, and he's got nice goggles. Would have been nice if the Romanians hadn't had a white sled, but still looked pretty cool. Looked pretty cool. This is done with a Wimberley head. It's familiar with a Wimberley head, possibly if you do wildlife, but it's not only a rotating head, but it swings. It's like on its own pendulum swing, so you can not only swing, perpendicular sideways, but you can raise and low, tip and lower the long lens as well. And most bobsled courses have a full circle, a 360-degree circle, and then it usually loops around and goes underneath the course, and so you can track them and shoot. Very difficult on film because film has a shutter moving, and the shutter, kind of ever so slightly blocks your view, so to speak, from the action, especially at a slow shutter speed. This is where the mirrorless is invaluable to make pans, because you're looking through the electronic viewfinder, and you can see whether that's centered, whether you're keeping it centered in position. But that's where mirrorless is it's great for pan action. I really should emphasize that. But on the Wimberley head, I think I was using like a 250 or a 300 on this one. It's in the book. Let's look it up. I think it is. You guys are gonna like this book. The PDF is worth it just for all the camera data. Believe me. This is just, oh, I passed it up. Nope. It's dancing, rowing, pole vault, track and field. Come on. There it is. There it is, and there's the bobsled. Wow, right there. Okay. It is. This is on film, f4, 80 to 200 millimeter at 200, and it is at f2.8. Wow. You'd think it would be like f11 or something like that, but it was overcast, and they had the light turned on in the corner, and I was on a TV platform where I read on the TV that they were not going to film the qualifying rounds of the 4-man bobsled. So all the TV platforms on the course were vacant. So I went right up there, got a super clamp, clamped it to the railing of the TV position, and then had the Wimberley head, and it was just dialed in to where it would just look perfectly as I was panning. I didn't even look through the camera. I tried looking through the camera, it's too hard. Then I just started actually just like a machine gun, I'm just like, moving it and looking at the object, and actually had very high percentage. But the pan made like perfect pan right along, and you can see the railings are like almost tack sharp. But the bobsled, I missed a lot, but I got a lot at the same time. Gotta have Jamaica. There's no way you can not have Jamaica. Cool Running, the movie, if you haven't seen it, Cool Running. Two very hard sports. These are like the fastest on the planet, I think, for a human being. You've got luge, and this was actually shot wide angle. The luge course, you can stand right next to it. You're only an arm's length away. You're only an arm's length away. I'm in the audience. My stomach basically is right on the railing, and I could just about reach out and touch this guy. And used a wide angle lens. I don't recall what lens it was at the time, but it was like, I had a 17 to 135, I think it was, and an older lens, older Olympics. And I had it at like 4,000th of a second. I pre-focused on it right there, right? How do you know it's going to be sharp? Well, I lean in, focus on the ice, and then lean back out because his body is about, 18 inches, 20 inches thick. He's, so I lean back. Now that focal plane is in focus because he's coming around a blind turn here. I can't see him with the audience, so not even AF was, I couldn't keep up with him. Let's put it that way. And I didn't look through the camera again. I just, as he went by, I just would go click like that because he's doing, I'm only like 6 feet away and he's doing like 88 miles an hour. And just, but I got used to it and nailed him. I did it during the practice session and then came in during competition and just, I liked all the shadows of the people watching. It was pretty cool. How am I doing on my time? How am I doing on my time, Pete? Oh, okay. We should maybe get to the big questions. Same idea.
We're getting through most of the questions as we go, or you're answering them as you go as well,
Okay.
without you even knowing that they were being asked.
Great. This actually has a slower shutter speed, but because there's nothing there's no contrast behind them. In other words, it's just ice. It's just the ice. It doesn't look like there's a pan action at all, does it? Very little. If you look close, you can see it. But when the logo gets in there, then that's a different story. And it was actually snowing a little bit as well. So it just kind of blurs most of everything. And I got 1/25th of a second. I think I posted this in my Instagram a couple years ago. But I think I probably had the camera data in there. I'm sorry, I don't remember it. You can see where the sun is right on the helmet. Those are the coolest helmets I ever saw. Those are pretty neat. Well, Germans had great helmets too. They had like gold chrome. Doesn't get much better than that. Cloudy day, either very low sunshine or when they turn the lights on and all of a sudden the lights on the track start taking effect, then you can get real slow shutter speeds way down there. Same thing. You kind of got the idea of pans. Luge just makes cool stuff. There's shadows, use a high contrast setting. Use a high contrast. So let the shadow, the shade that's in the turn just goes jet black. And then you have these interesting shapes of the light. And I'm cranked up around 4,000th of a second for this. 2,000, 3,500, 4,000, somewhere's in there because they just come ripping by you. Look familiar? Almost, right? It got published as a vertical rather than the horizontal. That's the only kind of difference. It's a different shot, but you can see just a little bit of the turn in there. I followed him just, click, 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 because he went around. But it just looks cool. And you can, especially when they got a chrome helmet, it's kind of neat to see the whole track in there and everything. This little lesson is about getting there early. This is Jim Shea. This is one of my favorite stories. He won the gold medal in skeleton. It's not luge. This is skeleton, or as I like to call it, suicide luge. And these guys are nuts. Did I put him in here? Oh, I don't think I did. I don't think I put someone else in here. Let's see if I can find that person. Nope. Anyway, I got to the venue at about 5:15 or so in the morning. And Jim Shea wouldn't be on the track until 10 a.m. But there was a sort of pie-shaped platform. It was about 8 or 10 feet up or so. And it came almost to a point. Well, it did come to a point, but didn't sit there, but I was just ever so slightly back from the point. And I wanted that position because I knew Jim Shea had a chance to win. Newsweek said, we want him coming straight at you. I said, no problem. I will be there early. And I got there so early, and it had snowed that night. And there was about 8 inches of snow on the platform. And where are they? And I mean, I was there. I got pulled into the parking lot, 5:15, started walking up the course, up the hill, and it was snowing. And then these guys came by in a truck with shovels and sand and stuff, and they were going to go to the top of the course and sand off the walkway in for the media and all that stuff. They said, "Hey, you want to ride?" I said, "Absolutely." Hop in the back. So I go up the hill, laying in the back of this truck with all this sand and equipment and stuff. And this one is ISO 400, 1,250th of a second. So 1250, 1/1250th of a second at f4. It was very cloudy and it was snowing, and 600 f4. And I got up there, and by like 5:45 or so, I'm in position 4 hours and some change ahead of time. I wasn't there more than a couple of minutes. And then these guys from Germany came up the ladder, and they were just like, I could hear them talking German, and I'm sure they were probably thinking to themselves, we are so early, we're going to get that perfect position to shoot all the. Nope, I had it. And as soon as they came above the platform level and saw me there, and I swept off some of the platform so I could sit down on the wood, they let out with some German superlatives. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. And they were upset because I was there before them. And that's how it is. It's first come, first serve. And I don't have it in the show, I don't think. Do I have it? I do. There she is. Taken from the same location. This is the ladies' event. Oh, Jim Shea did win the gold medal, by the way. And autofocus is locked on as they're coming in. And I said, Jim Shea had a great helmet. This is the German helmet. They had these gold chrome helmets. You can see the track, and there's what's up above her on the helmet there. That's actually the TV camera on a cable system, like at football. Cable system is on cables up at the highest point of the stadium, and they can do the sky cam kind of thing going. But this is from the 2002 Olympics. So digital had just sort of dawned on everybody around 2000, 2001, 2002. And so it was autofocus at this point, and it did an amazing job. An amazing job. Oh, the guy doing luge in blue, he was doing he hit 90 miles an hour. That's 144.8 kilometers per hour if you're in Europe. Okay. Speed skating, it's a great event. They always, at the Olympics, they make these really cool venues. And just so you know, every Olympics, summer or winter, they will have test events for the venues. So if you say, I don't have a credential to the Olympics, what about the World Cup that's going to be held in the Olympic venue? Now maybe you can get hired to do the World Cup or something. Not everybody gets to the Olympics, but I don't want to lose track because I want to tell you how you can get to the Olympics. Bonnie Blair, Dan Jansen. France was the only medals, gold, silver, bronze medals, where athletes thought they were gypped because they were half glass. And they're right. Dan Jansen, gold medal. Pan. The background you're looking at that's panned, carpeting. It was colored carpeting that they had in the infield of the ice oval. And during the regular races, it would be full of athletes stretching and doing all kinds of like warming up exercises to get ready for their race. But in the 10,000 meter, It's so long. The race takes so long. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. And I wasn't hired. Well, I was hired by Newsweek to do the Olympics, but I wasn't going to do the 10,000. I said, let me go to the 10,000 meters, women's 10,000 meters speed skating, because I think I can make a really nice looking panned picture. So I went over there and spent a couple hours, made all kinds of really cool pan pictures. And they ran one, of course. They ran one. You got to be old for this one, 1988, because this is the Soviet champion. You see the CCCP on the back of her jersey. Another one, USA versus Canada. The background is very close to them, so the Olympic rings get panned enough and stop actioned enough. So it kind of works out. Short track, like roller derby. There's really a lot of stuff to shoot there. Lots and lots of stuff. This is kind of knowing your subject. I'd worked with Apollo Ono. I'd shot him a lot, or photographed him a lot. And I knew that when he would win, if he were to win, he buries his head when he crosses the finish line and then raises up as he comes around the corner. And all the photographers were down at the end of the straightaway because they think that's where they're going to get his picture. And I kept talking to these other photographers. You need to come down with me. If Ono wins, he will celebrate coming around the corner. So I finally convinced a couple guys, and they just thought this is not going to work. And I grabbed one of them, friend of mine from AFP, and I said, you stay here because it's going to pay off. And it did. We are shoulder to shoulder, right next to me. And he said, and you get silver and bronze behind him. When does that happen? And he was grateful. He was grateful. And I said, you're gonna thank me in the end. That's 2002, first Winter Olympics with digital, pretty much, and autofocus, pans there. I am going to race ahead here, Pete. And I know I'm just going to kind of start flipping through things, talk about ice hockey a little bit. And I liked most of my ice hockey. Not the Olympics, but I've shot, the Frozen 8 and the Frozen 4 and things like that. And I actually bring strobes in. Otherwise, you're just at the mercy of whatever the arena has, mostly about big hits. Remote cameras, you are allowed to use remote cameras, but you have to have permission from the arena and, whoever's hosting that event. You also need liability insurance. You need just over $2 million, $2.25 million of liability insurance. That's about $500 a year. That might be more than that now. It's been a few years. Might be more than that, but you have to have it, and you have to have proof of the insurance, piece of paper, you bring it in. You just can't waltz in there and go upstairs and hook up a camera. You have to get some clearance. Figure skating, big event. This is 1988, my first Winter Games shooting figure skating. And that's Brian Boitano doing then a triple axel, which was unheard of. There were only a couple of guys doing it. He was one of them. This is Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, 1994. If you weren't born then, if you weren't around then and don't know it, Tanya Harding on the right, her husband hired a hitman to injure Nancy Kerrigan, her arch rival. Both are Americans. And Nancy Kerrigan at a training session at the Olympic trials, the hitman hit her, and it was like the hit heard round the world. And Nancy got a silver, Oksana Bayul won the gold, and Chen Lu won the bronze. This is with a 300 millimeter f2 Nikkor lens and a 2x converter on it, because I needed the I needed the f2 to get some kind of quality during the actual action on the ice because of the photo positions, and still was using an f2 by Nikon at that time. But I still needed a 600, and the photo area was so restricted you couldn't bring the 600 in at the same time. So I used a 2x. That was that was a real stretch. That was a stretch. Always look for something different. Remote control cameras work pretty good, but you got to get permission, like I said. 1998. Or no, I'm sorry, 2006. This is 2006. That was actually my last Winter Olympics. This is Shiruka Arakawa, who won the gold medal for Japan. You want to know how do you get a picture like where their skirt isn't like up over their face practically and so forth? You have to shoot at the axles and toe loops and triple flips and whatever they're doing on their way up. So you want to start taking the shot right as they launch themselves. And then you get about, a sequence of pictures. One of them will have the skirt at least in a usable position. And that was the case for her double axle. Boom. There's always a show. There's always a show at the Olympics. And I went on tour with a number of skaters. I went on tour with Oksana Bayul and Michelle Kwan. Brian Boitano went on his tour for a while. When you get that reputation and you get sort of embedded in the sport, then they start asking you to do things. Bring them some prints, not a thumb drive. Bring them a print. Give them a thumb drive of some of the pictures of themselves. Give them an 8x10. They'll remember you. They'll remember you, and then they'll ask you to go on tour. This is on tour again. It's just there's cool pictures to take. Get high, get ice level. Don't always have to be ice level. Silhouette. Silhouette. Not 100% silhouette, but pretty close. Close enough. This is actually a photo shoot for Newsweek. It was for their European edition. And it's ice dancing, obviously. And it's the gold medalists before the Olympic Games. It's about a month. I took the picture about a month before the Olympics. And I lit the skating rink that we were in, and I lit it with color so that I could make the silhouette. This is, can anyone guess who this is? No? Okay. Tanya Harding. This is Tanya Harding at the Olympic trials where she was still innocent. They didn't know who had attacked Nancy Kerrigan. Nancy Kerrigan wasn't there, and Tanya won the trials and she had a pair of skates that had a gold blade. This is 1994. This is manual focus on film with a 400-2.8. It's during the final show that they have on Sunday after the Olympic trials were over. They come back for a televised event. And I was pretty good at manual focusing back then. I would use autofocus now, of course. You want to try and hook up with a marquee athlete. Ooh, wow, we're almost done. Don't worry, I'm going to get to the part about getting credentials. So I'm going to kind of fly through that. Did a lot of work with Michelle, 13 years worth. I started when she was 12 years old. That was the first time I saw her. Went on tour with her about 5 times. She was a wonderful, wonderful young lady. Always very generous with her time. Tried to teach me how to use chopsticks. Still can't do it. Still can't do it. Her favorite breakfast is pancakes with a whole lot of syrup. She likes the Waffle House. That's the truth. I'm telling you the truth here. If you can shoot one of the ice shows, whoever goes first the ice is usually wet because they've just freshly Zamboning it, you know, with the Zamboni, and there's water there, makes for a great reflection. It's like having a mirror. For Michelle, one time I just got up high in the stands and shot down. Thought it looked pretty cool. This is at her home rink. She's pretty young at this point. I think she is about 16, 15 or 16. This is in 2006. Nope, sorry, 2002. This is right before the Salt Lake Games. It was a cover for Newsweek. At her home rink, there's lighting. I brought my own lighting on the ice and a black backdrop onto the ice. We actually shot it the day before with a younger athlete, so that we knew everything was working, everything was going to work out just fine. That way Michelle only had to come in and do a few things, and then she could get on with her practice. So she was very generous there. Olympic trials, also 92 at the old Spectrum, I think it was, in Philadelphia. 98 Olympics. This is actually her routine for Salt Lake City. This is her long free program. I would do this with the top 5 athletes, both men and women, and some of the pairs. And I would go to the practice sessions, and I wouldn't even photograph sometimes. I would go in there and I would just write down from the viewpoint of the judges, which I'd find out where my designated area to be is. And I could tell then, no matter where my photo position was, I knew where she was going to be jumping and doing various tricks and so forth. And I'd draw a little schematic. And I was one popular dude when I'd set up shop rinkside, because I'd have these taped right along the boards. And all these photographers would come over and look at it, thinking they're going to get a hint of what's going on. I go, can we look at that? I go, sure, go ahead. Jump 1, double axel. Jump 2, triple flip. Jump 3, triple Lutz, double toe loop. In other words, I had my own little code that I could figure out. They don't always win. This is still hard for me to look at because I did so much with Michelle. I considered her a good friend, still do. And they don't always make it to the end. Okay, we are right at time here. Pete, I'm just gonna let's see. Can I get out of this? I can get out of this. Rip. Where is it? Speed sync. Lab. Here it is. Am I okay, Pete?
Yep.
You see the whole screen still? Okay. I'm going to talk about credentials for just a couple minutes here. And I'm sorry we didn't get to everything. I didn't gauge my time particularly well, but there it is. I've had a lot of credentials over my lifetime. This is actually in the book. It's the opener to the whole book. The photo credential. If you're into shooting like high school sports and so forth, you go to the high school athletic director or head coach of the team that you're doing, probably both. And you want to explain to them, I love taking pictures. I have a portfolio on my website. If you'd like to look at that, here's that, or here's a thumb drive, or whatever, where I've done other schools or whatever you've done. And I'd like to, would love to help shoot things for your athletic department. You go to the athletic director, head coach, show them some examples. Just say, I'm just here because I love photographing sports. I love high school sports, and I'm not charging anything to anybody, whatever. But I will make them available to the school. They may say, do you want to sell pictures to the parents? They'd love, prints or something. Sure, that'd be, whatever you do. I mean, a lot of they're guys who have, and gals who have worked for newspapers I've known for years, and now they work, newspapers don't hire very much anymore. So they work for high schools and make their full living at it. And so it just depends on what kind of deal you strike with the high schools as to whether it's something you actually get paid for, or is it just something that you want to do and you just love giving kids, prints, or here's a thumb drive with 10 pictures from the last football game of you doing stuff. College, a little different. You go to the sports information director. They will issue credentials to you, but they may say, we've already got our couple guys that do this. We already have a young lady that photographs the college teams for us. Go to the student government and or sponsors of the school, like Arby's, Pancake House. Look, if you don't know what their sponsors are, just go to a hockey game, because a lot of they'll be plastered all over the hockey game. Anyway, student government has you do more than just sports. Student government would have you shoot, here's students out in the quad, on a beautiful fall day with fall colors, and they've got their books under their arms and, their laptop, they're doing some stuff. School sponsors, these are the people that end up using pictures and paying you. The SID is sports information director. He is just looking to cover sports. But these other two, they're a great source to get credentialed in to see college games. You need to have a portfolio to show them. If you do lighting, like portraiture, they would want to know that, because they're going to want pictures of teachers and students in the classroom. And, there's brochures. You go to visit the school to see if you want to go to school there. They have a nice big catalog and a brochure and all this stuff. That's a great group to get into, because they need sports as well. And they've got more of a budget probably than the sports information department, honestly. So try that. College and pros, another way to get into credentialed and to get in and get hired is wire service. Getty is a wire service. They hire people lots of times just locally. USA Today Sports, Zuma Sports. These are agencies that are always looking for good photographers. They may not, you would want to be able to have a good portfolio for them. Just so you know, the Instagram is the first place they'll look for your work. And they don't want to see the club sandwich that you had yesterday. They want to see your best sports action images and documentary type coverage of whatever sports you're going to. So they'll go to your website second, because that's where they want to see how much quality. Instagram doesn't reveal to them what kind of quality you shoot, but it's a higher quality and a much bigger screen, of course, to look at your work on the website. So they'll be wanting to look at that. So you have to have that also. It's not just about Instagram. That just gets your foot in the door with them. Then they'll go look. And if it looks clean and sharp and you're not cropping the living daylights, although you can today. I mean, you can crop a lot because the cameras are so good, the files are so big. But they want to know what things look like there. You also want to tell them, I'm willing to drive. I live in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I'm willing to drive 250 miles to go to a game to cover for Getty, to cover for USA Today Sports, to cover for Zuma Press. So think of that. Some people are willing to drive 500 miles to go to a game. That's a long ways. That's like me driving over to Kansas City from the Denver area or something. So just keep that in mind. The circumference of how far you think you're willing to drive and not have a hotel room. Because you can ask them that, it's like, I'll drive 500 miles, but for that, I would need to stay overnight. I need to come in the day before, but I'll leave and drive directly home after that. But I'll drive in the day before, and they'll go, no hotel expense. It's on you. Ooh. Well, now I'm down to 250 miles because I don't want to. So I think you get the idea there of whether you can set yourself up. Newspapers and magazines, you would talk to the photo editor. You would want to do that. And I'll tell you one of the best place to meet and make some contacts for this sort of thing is right there at Team USA. You should get your Instagram and be on that Instagram at Team USA. And what you want to do is contact the media communications directors of what's called the National Governing Bodies, NGB. Team USA is in the Olympic Committee office. The press officer and communications director for the USOC, United States Olympic Committee. Just Google that, find out who that press officer is, contact them. Which I believe you can get at teamusamedia.usoc.com. The NGBs, though, they're going to hire individual photographers to cover their events. And some of them have money. USA Figure Skating has money. USA Track and Field has money. USA Gymnastics has money. USA Table Tennis probably doesn't have any money, or at least not very much. But it's a foot in the door with the Olympic Committee and the NGBs. That's what you're trying to do. And you get in and they'll tell you how much they can pay. The better the sport, the higher the sport, like with TV coverage and live stream coverage. Those are the ones that have more money. Boxing usually has a fair budget. But up to you. Contact them through teamusa.org/media/NGB-communications-contacts. And you'll see a whole list will come up of all those communication directors and their contact information, phone number, emails. Contact them. And I've been saying this for years and years now. The people who have done what I'm just suggesting to you have done that, and they've ended up working. You have to produce good pictures to stay working, and your portfolio should be good enough. If you're going to contact US Track and Field, let's see some high school track and field. Let's see some college track and field. Then we'll talk about hiring you for like the USA Nationals or the Penn Relays or the Prefontaine Invitational, something like that. But this is people that will do it. If you're a good sports photographer, and you'll get work. You'll get credentialed, and then you maybe prove yourself, and then you get hired. But you have to go into this on your own. Got to get in there and get after it. Credentialing for Olympic Games starts usually 2.5 years out, so to speak. So when the Summer Olympics are occurring, the credentialing process is already starting for the Winter Games, because those are only 2 years away. Remember, they alternate. Summer Games, 2 years later, Winter Games, 2 years later, Summer Games, 2 years later, Winter Games. You also want to try and get credentialed into the Pan American Games. Those would be summer sports, because that's the gateway into the Olympics. But if you work for the NGBs, then you've got a pretty good chance. You work for 3 or 4 NGBs, and the U.S. Olympic Committee might actually credential you, just you, because you're servicing their people. their athletes, the NGBs, those are the Olympic, that's where the Olympic athletes come out of. And so it's their job to help the NGBs. And if you're doing US swimming, US diving, US wrestling, US table tennis, and what's another one? Sorry, 2-hour talk. I'm out of oxygen, but you get the idea. You're working for 3, 4, 5 of those NGBs on a regular basis before an Olympic Games. The US Olympic Committee may hire you because you are servicing those NGBs. They'll say the NGBs can pay you, but we want to see your pictures. We'll get a credential that you can cover anything. That way, if the NGBs, you pick up some more NGBs, then you can help them out too. That, you may think I'm joking, but that's actually how it works. That's how you get in. But you need to prove yourself that you're on their side to do things. I'm interested in track and field. I'm interested in the Olympic trials. I want to do the Pan Am Games. All those things add up to going, this guy or gal, they're for real. This young lady, she's for real. She wants, she's making the Olympic athletes a priority. And there's a lot of, income that might be made. You get good at it and you're doing these things for the NGBs. Who do you think they're going to recommend to their sponsors? Nike, McDonald's, whoever. And next thing you know, then you're doing commercial shoots. But it starts because you took a job for USA Badminton, who doesn't have any money, just wants to get some pictures, and you're a good photographer and you shoot tennis. So you say, I'm sure I can do badminton. And next, what you'll find is that contact at USA Badminton after the Olympics, they're going to move up the ladder. They're going to start, they may become the media director for the USTA, the US Tennis Association, or USA Boxing. And if you think this isn't a true story I'm telling you, and this is how people have gotten into shooting this sport, football is a very difficult sport to get into shoot because everybody does it. Everybody wants to do it. There's 1,000 photographers with a Sony or a Canon or a Nikon who can shoot football because of 30 frames a second. But getting to the top of the heap, the top of the pyramid, and working for magazines and Sports Illustrated maybe, and they're sponsors of the team, that's hard. There are a lot of people willing to do that, and they're not about to step down. You have to knock them out, so to speak. So, but the Olympics, there's a lot of potential there. I have made most of my the biggest income producing sport for my entire career was figure skating, not the NFL. And I shot 30 years of the NFL. Figure skating. I made more money with figure skating because of the same road I just talked to you about. I actually sent myself to the World Championships in 1986. The Olympic Committee gave me a credential because I was already doing things for them, but we were too far away from the Winter Games. They wanted to wait one more year before actually hiring me and sending me. But if you go, we'll credential if you want to go. And it was my first time ever seeing the sport of figure skating live. And I sat down at that World Championships. I had my credential. I sat down in front row seat, and alongside of me was everybody that was famous. Everybody working for Sports Illustrated. Everybody working for what was called All Sport, which became Getty. And they thought, oh gosh, there's that guy again that does a lot of that gymnastics and some other sport, but he's here at figure skating now because he's making the jump to winter sports. And the first couple came out for ice dancing compulsories. That's how long ago it was. And I photographed that first couple out there. I don't even know who they were. And I thought to myself, I could be good at this. I could be really good at this, actually. Manual focus on film, 1988. And I approached Newsweek, who I was doing things. I said, you know, I've been doing a lot of the summer sports and Olympics, and what about the winter games? Well, what do you do? I said, well, I just shot the world championships. Great. Let's see some of the pictures. Showed him some of the pictures, and it was like, great. You'll do Calgary for us. I said, great. I already have my credential. It's through the U.S. Olympic Committee. Do you mind? I'll be shooting everything, not just fair. Oh, of course, not a problem. But we're going to hire you. We'll hire you. You can still work for them if you want. You can double dip. We don't care. We liked your figure skating so much. We want you to do anything. And then I was also doing freestyle skiing. I was also doing ski jumping. You get the idea? How's that sound, Pete? Oh, everybody left.
It sounds fantastic.
Okay, some people are still there. Raise your hand if you stuck around. There you go. I only get to see Pete. Well, that's great. Did that help? Any of that help? Was it a bit of learning?
It was utterly fantastic. And especially that last part there, a lot of people ask how you get credentials, how you get business, how you get involved in this. So yes.
The road to the Olympics, it doesn't happen overnight necessarily, but I'll tell you, start contacting the NGBs.
Yep.
Have a portfolio. You got to show them that you're already doing something. If you just took your camera out of the box, get yourself shooting some high school events and things like that, and kind of. But if you're shooting, call the NGBs. You'll be surprised, and don't be if it's not a marquee sport like some of the ones I mentioned, and it's like archery, really, archery's cool. It's really cool. You should see the bows are like so high tech. It's unbelievable. I enjoyed shooting archery. You want to just get your foot in the door. All those NGB contact people that do the media, they all know each other. They all talk to each other. They're all on campus at the USOC. They have lunch together. Hey, have you got a photographer that's any good? Yes, we got a guy that's shooting our archery. Her name is this. Here's her contact. She's really sweet to work with. She's really fast when she posts the pictures up to our site, our Instagram and social media. She does it right there from the arena where they're doing whatever they're competing. Yeah, if you're good, they'll pass your name along and you'll be working for somebody else. I had a gal that used to work for figure skating, and she eventually ended up working for Formula One. And I ended up doing a couple of events because she remembered me, called me up, said, hey, can you do the Denver Grand Prix? I can do that, Anyway, there it is.
All right. Well, thank you.
Who's going to win the raffle?
We won't know until another 24 hours. We're going to leave that open, and Akiva will draw a winner and let me know.
Oh, okay. So if they signed up, that sort of...
Yep, they just have to sign up, and they'll get contacted if they're the winner.
Nice. All righty.
All right.
Well, always a pleasure, Pete.
Yep,
I'm sorry
thanks,
I didn't
Dave.
get to meet anyone in person, but hopefully there's some of you that I knew, come visit my daughter and I on AMA Mondays. And you could win the SanDisk SSD drive, you never know.
Yep.
And buy the PDF version of my book. Unless you're retired, you have a good retirement and you're got $212, get the hardcover. It looks beautiful. I'm not kidding you. Pete's gonna get one for free. Well, it's not for free. I have to buy them too. I don't have boxes of books in my garage. Published one at a time. That way I can make the book just the way I want it.
There you go.
But Pete, you'll be getting one in the mail. I actually ordered a few of them. You've been very good to me, and I always enjoy working for you and everybody at SanDisk. So
All right. I look forward to it.
yeah, lucky Pete. All right.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. And Adorama, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Adorama. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks, everybody. Bye.